Many people have put a mark on this world. One of these people was Helen Keller. For Helen, being blind and deaf did not ruin her dreams. Now I present to you the story of Helen Keller. On June 27th, 1880, a girl named Helen Keller was born to Kate Keller, her mother, and Arthur Keller, her father. She was born in a small town called Tuscumbia, Alabama. In January 1882, while Helen was a little bit over 1 year old, she developed a high fever. After the fever had broke, her mother thought nothing was wrong, until the light shone in her eyes, and she did not care. They realized that Helen was blind. A couple hours later, when their dinner bell rang, Helen did not even notice. They again realized that something was wrong. It had seemed that the horrible fever that Helen had left her blind and deaf. Though Helen was blind, she still got to know the people in her house. In her house were her half-brothers, James and William, her Aunt Ev, her youngest sister Mildred, and the Keller servants. For her, Helen used her hands as eyes and began to know everybody around the household. One day in 1886, Helen left her house with her parents, and they met a man named Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell was a fine man of understanding the deaf. He told the Keller family to contact Perkins, the school for the blind. As the Kellers contacted the school, they decided that Helen was not yet ready. Instead, they decided to send a young lady to help the Kellers. Her name was Anne Sullivan. Little did they know, but Anne Sullivan was going to be a miracle to the Kellers. When Kate Keller brought Anne back to their house on March 3rd, 1887, Helen realized there was somebody new in the guest room. Helen walked into the room and felt Annie. Annie gave Helen a doll and spelt the word into her hand by fingerspelling. Helen caught on very quick and spelt the word right back to Annie. Annie and Helen became quick friends until one night, while eating dinner, Helen tried to reach on Annie's plate to get what she wanted. Annie was furious. Annie decided first she needed to teach Helen obedience. The Kellers did not like how mean Annie could be, but Annie said she would leave if the family did not like it. In 1887, the Keller family moved Annie and Helen into a guest house, but switched the furniture around so it was unfamiliar to Helen. Annie, every day, constantly spelled words into Helen's hands. One day, the two were outside on April 5th, 1887, and Helen went over to the family's water pump. Annie spelt the word into Helen's hand. Helen then caught on and realized that words were linked to things. So every time Annie spelt a word into Helen's hand, there was an object or an idea linked to the word. During the month of May, 1888, Helen and Annie made their way into Perkins for Helen's first class. Since Helen was also deaf, Annie got to stay by her side and fingerspell the words that the teacher said into her hands. After graduating, Helen wanted to do something huge. Besides knowing 3 languages, English, Latin, and Greek, she wanted to know how to speak. Annie was not capable of teaching her, so they found a woman named Sarah Fuller in 1880. Sarah Fuller and Helen worked very hard, and Helen was slowly learning to speak. Helen would mumble, but she worked hard. Since Helen graduated Perkins, it was time for Helen to go to college. Helen had big dreams of Harvard, but it was a boys' school, so she decided to enroll to Radcliffe in 1900, the Harvard version for girls. Helen then went to the prep school for Radcliffe. She passed all of her exams, even without Annie by her side. During her school years, she started thinking about writing. Since her best subject was English, she made the brave decision to start writing an autobiography. Helen named the biography The Story of My Life. And finally, her day had come, and she published her book in 1903. In June 1904, Helen graduated from Radcliffe with honors. Going to Radcliffe was quite hard for her because both of her parents died during her schooling. Helen Keller published her second novel, The World I Live In, around 1908. In 1913, Helen became very interested with speaking more, so they developed a stage routine about Helen's life, beginning a 3-year tour around the United States. But it did not go well for Helen. In most of her stage acts, she stated her religion and beliefs, but World War I entered and she could no longer do the stage act. Helen Keller, in 1923, joined the American Federation for the Blind. Helen and Annie decided to take a break for a while. Annie started to get very sick and died in October of 1936. This tragedy left Helen very sad, to the point where they were forcing her to eat. Then, in 1942, World War II began, and Helen started helping with the wounded veterans in the hospital. It was very important because it gave her a reason to keep living. One of Helen's greatest accomplishments happened when Broadway contacted Helen about opening The Miracle Worker. The Miracle Worker was a story of Annie and Helen. It was a great show, and it made Helen realize that her life was well lived. Helen Keller died in 1968 in Westport, Connecticut, at the age of 88 years old.